Just a warning for tonight's episode. If you have experienced sexual or physical abuse, you may be triggered. Welcome to Bunny Hugs and Mental Health, the podcast that deals with all things mental health. We talk to professionals, survivors, and loved ones about their sometimes informative, sometimes uplifting, and sometimes tragic stories. I'm your host of the show, Todd Rennebaum, advocate, recovering addict, experienced sufferer of depression and anxiety, and author of the children's book, Sometimes Daddy Cries. Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. I am your host, Todd Rennebaum. Man, I am excited about this episode. I'm excited about them all, and I appreciate them all, but this one, it's a little special for me because I've heard this guest on another podcast, and I was like, oh man, that guy is cool. He's got a cool job. He's funny, and so I was a little starstruck in a way when I got to speak to him. Before I get ahead of myself, I'd like to talk about next week's episode real quick. I am interviewing Tessa. I met her on Instagram, and she has been diagnosed with narcissism. Now, everybody thinks they know about narcissism and other cluster B personality disorders, but Tessa is here to talk about the stigma and some of the truths, some of the not truths, and just what someone diagnosed with narcissism is really like. So make sure to listen to next week's episode. And real quick, please follow me on Facebook at Bunny Hugs Mental Health Podcast. On TikTok, it's Bunny Hugs Podcast. On Instagram, Bunny Hugs Podcast. And on Twitter, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health. And you can reach out, talk to me, leave messages, questions, whatever on any of those platforms. And please do me a huge favor and rate and review this podcast on Apple. It really, really is important for podcasters to get ratings and reviews. So please do that. Now back to this episode. This gentleman's name is Bill Edgar, and he's written a book called The Coffin Confessor. And he has we talk about it in the first kind of chunk of the interview, what an amazing job he has. Basically, people on their deathbed hire him to do stuff, whether it's do something at the funeral for them or to go into their house after they die and clean out a hard drive of a computer or get rid of some embarrassing things in the house, or like I said, even go to the funeral and like call people out and stuff. So that alone is amazing. But in his book, not only does he talk about that stuff, but it also talks about the extreme trauma he had growing up. His father that he didn't really know, he's a bit of a gangster who spent a lot of time in jail and did a lot of really bad stuff. I don't want to say too much, but I really want to sell this episode because it really is great. But I do want you to buy his book, The Coffin Confessor. So now, without any further ado, I give you Bill Edgar.
I'm actually a private detective here in Australia, and I investigate finances. And I was working for a gentleman that was he had cancer. I didn't know how bad it was. We got to know each other quite quickly over the last 6 weeks I was working with him, and he was dying, and he was dying quickly. And we started talking about death and the afterlife and just all things surrounding death, and I said to him, why don't you do a eulogy? Do your own video, put a eulogy out there, and instead of someone else fucking talking about you, do it yourself. And he goes, no, he said, I've been to funerals where mates and the families, they just don't play them, or they watch them first and they go, oh, it's a bit cringeworthy. Now, honestly, as a joke, and it was only a joke, I said to the guy, I said, look, I could crash your funeral for you. And lo and behold, he took me up on the offer, and it's exactly what I did. I crashed his funeral for him.
It's brilliant. I love it. And then that turned into word of mouth, other people wanting you to do stuff for them.
Oh, insane. Yeah, word of mouth just went nuts. And then it was like other doors started opening. So I ended up getting a call from a palliative care nurse that a gentleman wanted to see me. I went and saw this guy, and he had some items at his home that he needed removed before his sons find it. And what I didn't realise is that this guy had actually had a fall at home, and when he was taken up by ambulance to the hospital, they said, "You'll never return home again." So everything that was there was like his TV was on, the lights were on. He just had a fall and gone. I mean, his half cup of tea was still there, so he was never going to return home. And he panicked, and he was so upset. And when he got word of what I did through this palliative care nurse, and I met the gentleman, he said, "Look," he said, I've got a room at home that I need cleaned out. And I really do. I'm really embarrassed about it. And it was quite emotional for him. And I said, "Look to him, no problem." I said, "You tell me what you want removed, I'll go and do it." And he says, "Oh, in this room, there's a key under the kitchen sink. You go into the room. It's a bit of a sex dungeon." And and it was. He was 88 years of age, this guy.
Lord.
And seriously, I'm talking a sex dungeon that was done in such a beautiful way. It didn't look like a dungeon. It was dark and seedy. It was done really, really professionally, really nice. And I gathered all the items and I brought them back to the farm and I incinerated them. I showed him all the video clips that what I'd done for him, and he was elated. He was so happy, and so I guess he could go without the fear of his sons finding out what he was into, and that opened other doors. So yeah, it just kept rolling.
I guess in a way this is mental health related, because a little peace of mind before you go. It's like you're already dying. You got enough shit going on in your mind that you're dying, and then that peace of mind that you're not gonna.
Exactly. I mean, how many? When you think about the mental health side of it, I mean, we all have secrets. Every person on this planet's got a secret, a skeleton in the closet, so to speak. And we'd actually we'd be petrified if someone found out, or not someone, but the wrong someone. Right. And there's a lot of bloody vultures in the families, right? And there's even vultures that'll use that stuff against you. So, in a way, he just needed to have a clearance, and so have a lot of people since, just to get rid of certain items. Even, elderly ladies have said, "Look, I'm a bit embarrassed. I've got a couple of sex toys. Can you go and remove them?" Yeah, not a problem. It's no big deal to me. I mean, it's not my toys. It's not my family. It's not my life. I'm just doing a job, and that's what I do.
Huh. Do you think he was having appropriate sex? Like, he wasn't doing anything illegal or anything. He just had this.
Oh no,
kink.
it was set up very, very nicely. He was pretty cool. Because I mean, look, I do investigate my clients. Each time I get a client, I have a look into their background. And there's a few things I can do, and I'll go into their internet searches and things like that. And there was nothing inappropriate this bloke did. He just lived a life that he wanted to live. He lost his wife, I don't know, when he was 40 or 50 or something, and been alone for 30 years, and just got into this thing. And hey, why not?
Hey. Yeah.
As long as you're not hurting anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but at the same time, I understand why he would not want his kids to find it. But
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
When I think of kids, I think of like 20-year-olds, but he was 88, so his kids were probably like 65.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're in late 40s, early 50s, whatever they were. But then he's got grandchildren, and then he's got, and it would have been very embarrassing,
Yeah, that's quite the service you provide, actually.
Yeah, well, I call them home sweeps now because I've done quite a few. So I just, so I do home sweeps. I go to viewings where I'll view the body and I'll place items in the casket with the body, and most people want their mobile phone when they're dead. I don't know why. They think they're going to, wake up 6 foot under. I don't know. But they want their mobile phones. Yeah, I mean, and then other people want me to pinprick them like a pin cushion to make sure they are dead because they're petrified about being cremated or buried alive.
Oh well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, whatever they want, they get.
I'm scared of spiders, so I guess whatever. We're all scared of something.
Of course we are.
Have you had to crash any other weddings or not weddings? Crash other funerals for people?
Oh, I've crashed quite a few now. Yeah, so it's been it's just rolled. I mean, the story got out, and then once it's in the media, people wanted to hire me just for fun. and it became a bit of a gimmick. But Graham, my first client, he actually set the price of $10,000 a funeral. And I'm glad he did, because it stopped other people just using my service for a bit of a revenge or whatever there was. So legitimate people came forward, which was great, And at the same time, I actually manipulated the price too, from $2,000 to $10,000, depending on where I go and everything else and what's involved. But again, they don't need the money where they're going, and I never get a complaint.
Yeah, I suppose. Have you ever had family come up to you and be like, "What the fuck? Like, we found this receipt, and like, how much did my dad pay you to do this?"
No, I've never had a confrontation about the actual the engagement of my services. I mean, obviously, there's people that are upset that I've just interrupted a funeral service, but at the same time, what I do is I get the crowd on my side as quick as I can. And I mean, by way of doing that, I'll go into a funeral and I'll go, "Excuse me, my name's Bill Edgar. I'm the Coffin Confessor. This is your loved one laying in the coffin. They've left something unsaid. You want to hear what it is? Great. If you don't, fuck off." Okay? Because your loved one's got something to say. And then half the crowd will go, "Oh, fuck, what did you, oh, I wonder what it is," and they want to know. Yeah. So the other half saying, "Oh, sit down and shut up," they're getting put down by the other half going, "No, we want to hear what he says," and it's
these are his dying wishes.
The crowd's the most important. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's them. It's not me talking. I'm just lending my voice. That's all I'm doing. Don't shoot the messenger. Or if you do, you've got to make sure you kill me.
What's the one where there was an affair or something and you crashed the funeral?
Look, infidelity seems to be the main, I guess, thing to get people off their chest. They want to expose what they've done. They don't want to take it with them. They want to tell their loved one, "No, you know what? Yeah, I did fuck around. And not only that, I know you did." And sometimes I'm reading these letters and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, fuck, I've got to let this, it's just going to explode." But yeah, look, infidelity is quite big. I mean, I did have to, I let a lady, I met a lady who was a beautiful lady. Her husband was an absolute fuckwit. He was a narcissistic prick. And I let him know that his kids weren't his, they're actually his brothers.
At the funeral.
It didn't go down well for him. At the funeral. Didn't go well down for him. But, at the same time, at least she cleared the air with her children before that was done. So at least the kids knew and everything, so there was no big surprise for the kids. It wasn't an awkward thing, but it made it very awkward for him. And everybody that knew that family, they knew he was a prick. And they loved to see him out, so it didn't matter,
right.
So, and I enjoyed doing those type of things. It was a bit like, one gentleman, he didn't want to, he did not want a funeral, a religious funeral, right? That was his whole thing. I don't want a religious funeral. Mum and Dad are going to have a religious funeral. I do not want one. All his friends knew that he wasn't religious. All his friends knew that he didn't step foot in a church. He hated God, hated all this thing. And that was his beliefs. And lo and behold, what happened? His mum and dad organised a bloody religious funeral. So I have to go in there and say, "Look, this is being closed down. It's not going to happen. He doesn't want a religious funeral. He just wants to be cremated." And they go, no, he's being buried. No, he's being cremated. That's what he wants. This is his wishes. Here's the contract. Here's the video. This is what's going to happen. Now, all his mates stood up and cheered. They were like, "Yeah, fucking oath. Good. About time someone stood up." And I'm like, "Why didn't you all fucking stand up?"
Yeah. Right.
And then I just leave. So, it seems funerals, we seem to be there and we're respecting the living, not the actual dead. Right. And that's got to change. You've got to respect the dead and what they want. Fuck everyone else.
I suppose doing funerals, it's hard to get a tip afterwards, though, because, they're dead.
I get paid up front. I don't need a tip.
Okay. There was one I heard you do on Andrew Gold. On the Edge with Andrew Gold, by the way, is an amazing podcast. This is where I first heard of Bill. But do you prefer Bill? Is that okay?
Yeah, Bill's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and Andrew was great. I've got to know Andrew quite well, and a bit of a pen pal with him. It's good.
Yeah, same.
I like Andrew.
Yeah, he's a good bloke, as they say. The one story you were telling on there was the guy was in bed dying, basically, and he could see his best mate popping in, trying to get
that
with
was
his
my
wife?
first funeral. Yeah, my first crash. That was Graham. Yeah.
Oh.
He was the one that was dying, and he was in a state. If you've ever been with somebody that's on their deathbed, they're very weak. They can't speak much. They have limited time to talk. They fall asleep a lot. They cry. They're upset. They don't want to die. And then they do want to die because the pain's horrific.
Yeah.
This guy couldn't defend his wife from his best mate, who was leeching and coming into the house and basically all over his wife. His wife didn't want anything to do with him, but they couldn't get rid of him. And I said to him, look, if you can allow me to set a couple of cameras up to prove that this is going on, I'll definitely out him at the funeral, not a problem. So I did that, and I found out exactly what he was doing and what he was up to. And he was just he wasn't a mate, he was just a thing. And it ended up, I said to Graham, I said, well, how about when your best mate's doing the eulogy, how about I stand up and interrupt it? And he goes, yeah, what would you say? I'd say, oh, sit down, shut up, or fuck off. Graham in the coffin's got something to say. And he goes, yeah, that sounds really good. Let's do that, And so Graham started getting a bit of life about him, and we started writing out and planning what was going on. And it was one of the most, I don't know, it was a bit magical to see a bit of life come back into Graham because he had something to do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
It really, and it excited him. Even though he wasn't going to be there, he said he was going to be there, in his own way. And it was pretty cool. Yeah, so I enjoyed doing that one.
So you were a private investigator and he hired you to check out his best mate. And then
I was working prior to that for Graham.
Oh, I see.
In a financial capacity, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we just got to talking and knowing each other. And I got to say, every client I've met, even up until the other day, I meet these people and I get to know their secrets, their desires, their fantasies, everything about them in such a short time. And I'm so humbled but blessed to be able to hold those secrets for those people. And some of them, they haven't even told their wives or families or, girlfriend, boyfriend, and they're letting them out to me. And I'm like, fuck, you really want me to say that at the funeral? And they're like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, how are you going to feel? Well, I'm dead. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry.
Have you ever kind of grown attached to some of your clients and then they're expiring? So is that a bit of a mind fuck for you?
No, not really, because I attach to the thought that I'm preparing them for their journey and I'm doing a job for them, and I'm happy to do that. And every client I've had has been like, it's good to know something's actually going to get done, and that's the belief, and that's what I entrust and tell them, is that whatever you say, what you want done will be done. Okay, and a lot of people go, why can't they get a family member or friend to do that? Because the fucking family member or friend won't do it. It's not easy to stand up at a funeral and tell everyone to fuck off, or or even if it's a loving message. And I mean, I've done a lot of funerals where they're good, bad, funny, and sad. So there's a whole range of funerals, and it's not all bad or revenge. I mean, some of them are just, I get choked up at reading some of the letters. You'll read them and you go, there's one particular lady, she's in her letter, she screams, I don't want to die. I didn't want to die. It's not the fear of dying, it's the fear of losing you, losing my husband, my children, and not being able to feed them and clothe them and be with them. And it's heartbreaking because you're listening to this emotion. And then everybody in the audience is like the same thing. They're emotional, but they're actually hearing it from her, even though it's my voice. And it's really cool because you haven't got just a priest standing up on stage going, oh, we got to remember this lady. And the priest may not even fucking know her, have never met her.
I know. I don't get that.
I don't get it either. But anyway, so I enjoy doing what I do, and I do get close to them to a point, but I've made sure that in my life, I'm not close to anyone anyway. Only my wife and my children, that's it. That's just the way I am.
Is that a choice that you made, or like a conscious choice, or is that kind of like a trauma-based thing?
I think it's more of a trauma-based thing that I've adapted since the trauma, and I don't carry other people's baggage. I don't. I never have a co-accused. I always make sure I do things on my own. I don't have a friend in the world where I can go and have a beer or a coffee with. I do that by choice because I just know that the people that are closest to you are the ones that hurt you the most. And it's a true fact for me. I've seen it. I've seen it through all the funerals I do. And for me, from the age of 7 to the age of 15, I was abused, molested, raped, bullied, bashed, and this was by my grandfather and then teachers at a school. And this is another thing that really blows my mind, is that as you get older and you start wondering and thinking and learning, those 4 men that abused, bashed me and did what they did to me as a child, they were all married. They were married men with children. They had their own lives. Not one gay man had ever hurt me. Not one. And yet I used to think that the gays were the ones that were bad, and I'd go poof to bashing and all that. They never did anything to me. It was married heterosexual bullshit that attacked me. And I'm like, so that's something I have to live with for the rest of my life, is knowing that I did hurt certain people for no other reason than society making me think that, poofs and gays and all that, they're pedophiles, and they weren't.
And you actually went out and beat up some homosexual people?
Oh, I used to do it all the time as a kid. Yeah, 16, 17, 18-year-old. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's how I was getting my revenge.
Right.
And I didn't know those perpetrators on me. I knew my grandfather was married with kids and that, but I didn't know the other 3 teachers were, had families or anything. As far as I know, we're at school, and then half the kids would saying, "Oh, he's a poof," or "He's gay," and I'd just seek my revenge on other poofs and gays, and it was wrong, so wrong.
Maybe describe your childhood.
My childhood,
your younger years,
mate. I got to say, look, from the age of it was my 8th birthday the next morning, and the night before my 8th birthday, my grandfather sexually, physically, and mentally abused me in a way that was horrendous. But in the morning, I woke up to him giving me a brand new bike, and then that went on for years, and it was horrific. And I'd be telling my mum, she'd basically hit me with a strap or a wooden spoon for lying or talking bad about my grandfather, and it was terrible. I couldn't tell anybody. There was no one I could tell. So I sort of always went into this little room in my own world, and when anything happened, I'd just escape to there, and I'd become like a mute. Whatever happened to me, I could see myself, but I couldn't feel anything. And I always had that room, and to this day, I can still go there. I mean, it's not a place that I like to visit anymore, but it's still there. I won a scholarship to a school, a prestigious school in Australia. It was there that I tried to explain to them what had been happening at home. What I didn't realise is that I was put into a system that was a pedophile's playground. They knew what was happening. They knew we had no money. They knew, I was living in government housing. They knew I was a child that had no money, no power, no ability to, help myself or anybody to help me. So I became a toy for the teachers.
Damn. So they knew you were vulnerable. Man, it's nauseating hearing this shit.
Oh, it's gutting. Yeah, it's gutting because, I look at my grandchildren today and I think to myself, I'd die if I would kill them in a heartbeat if they ever did that to my children. What happened to me, to use their power and I was always hungry as a kid. And I got to be honest with you, I was never an alcoholic, a drug addict or anything like that. I was hungry. I broke into more houses than I could imagine, right? Or you could imagine. But at the same time, I only went to the fridge. I stole food. People would be coming home going, fucking someone's been in the house. Or would they steal? The spaghetti bolognese.
Who ate my sandwich?
Yeah. But that'd be me because that's what I'd do. I was so fucking hungry. And at school, one of the perpetrators, one of the teachers, he'd go through the lockers of the other boys and bags and he'd steal stuff from all the kids. He'd bring it into his office and he'd say to me, now, if you tell anybody what I'm doing to you, I'm going to tell him that you're the thief of the school. and you're the one stealing all this stuff. And it hurt me so much. And it was a manipulation that I couldn't get away from, because kids knew I was poor. Kids knew I was on a scholarship. Kids knew I didn't have lunch money. What the fuck's lunch money? I never had that. And so when they started seeing me eat, and if the teacher was to say, look, he just stole your lunch from the bag, and it was just horrific. So they used all types of coercion, and it was terrible.
And this is the teacher you went to talk about your grandpa abusing you, and then he went and did this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. He started off with, I'm going to help you. This is how I'm going to help you. And then all of a sudden it was stripped down. Tell me what your grandfather does to you and show me what you do to him on me. And I was like, fuck, you're kidding me. Like, I'm a kid. I was 13, 14 years old,
Well, no wonder you have trust issues. Like, you're told as a kid, if someone's doing shit to you, tell an adult, tell a teacher, tell someone. And that's exactly what you did. Yeah. And then all it did was get you more and more and more. So three right. There was 3 teachers that.
3 teachers. One of the teachers wasn't a sexual abuser. He was, he hated me from the start because I was on a scholarship. He nicknamed me a charity case, and that I wasn't worth teaching, and that because the other kids' parents pay for the privilege of coming to the school like this, he will not teach me. So he ended up picking me up by the ears and hanging me on a hook at school like a port rack, and he ripped my ears till they bled. He kicked me, dragged me along the carpet. He did everything to embarrass, humiliate, and really abuse me in a way that I didn't see a difference between the sexual abuse and that abuse. But what I did find is that later on in life, and not long after I left, I ran away from both home and school and lived on the streets. And I think that punishment, that abuse, no one could hurt me again. I couldn't even cry. Everything had been ripped out of me. I had no emotion. I had no emotion for people. I didn't give a fuck about people, and if they wanted to hurt me, well, give it a go, because I'm now on the streets and I'm learning fast and hard how to look after myself. And it became a world that I was thrown into, and people say, oh, you just went that way. I didn't just go that way. I was forced that way. I had no choice. That's exactly, how it was for me. And not only did I lose my childhood, but I lost any thought of even religion. I mean, that was ripped away from me, because at the time, and even like people say to me, oh, how do you find God and all that? You're an atheist. And I'm not religious. I really aren't. And the reason I'm not religious is because the school and the Anglican church that owns the school, they taught me from a very young age that, and this sounds really awful, but at the same time, it's something that I've lived with my whole life until I found something better and a higher being and everything else. So in my own life, as a child, I was told by the school, but not in direct terms, but they said, look, our God raped a girl named Mary who gave birth to a bastard son named Jesus who died for your sins. And repent means repeat. And I'm like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? And they go, well, if our God can do it, we can do it. Shut up and sit down. And I'll be like, I don't get it. I couldn't get my head around why so many people were into religion then. And it pissed me off, and I really hated it. And I'd start to think, is repent repeat? Is it really? Do they go to church every Sunday and they repent, but they go do the whole fucking thing again for another 7 days?
Was the posh school you went to, was that like a religious school tit was an Anglican boys' school, very posh, very even today it's a very high monetary school to go to attend. I've been going through the battle with them for over 30 years, and it's I only just got a letter the other day saying that they're going to refute the claims that I put forward, even though they may have made an offer in the past. I say may. There's been a few offers in the past. So let's see where it goes. I mean, at this stage, they've turned a whole thing around and made it about money. And I've never made it about money. I wanted a fucking apology. I wanted the acceptance. I wanted something to happen to move on so it would never happen again.
and they wouldn't do that. So I started a Facebook page called Lost Boy of TSS. And that Facebook page started gaining a lot of attention. And then all of a sudden, 133 other students came forward and started speaking to me about their personal abuse and what was going on there.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I'm glad I wasn't the only one then.
Well,
I'm not happy about not being the only one.
Right, I know what you mean.
But I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if 3 teachers were doing this, 2 of them sexually, guaranteed you weren't the only kid this is happening to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same thing is happening around, there's a local city here. It's some kind of culty, weird Catholic church, and like 4 people came out last week, and within the last week, it's like 150 people or something, and it's...
Of course. I mean, it's an epidemic. It's vile. And it's being covered up by the higher powers, which pisses me off the most. Why not expose them? We have a Prime Minister in Australia that put a block on ever knowing what was going on within certain, realms of the government and certain people, and even a Prime Minister they've accused of being a pedophile, and they will not release the documents for 99 years. What the fuck? I don't get it. But the one thing I have learned, and this is like a lot of people said to me earlier on, they said, you're fucking with the church. They're going to get you. The alumni, they're going to get you. They're very powerful. Well, you know what's more powerful? Someone that doesn't give a fuck, and someone that holds their secrets. That's more powerful.
The truth is powerful.
Right? And I hold some of theirs. Oh, yeah. And I hold some of their secrets, some of the alumni boys' secrets. And they don't want that. Those fucking boys don't want that coming out. So that's what's more powerful. Yeah. Who holds the biggest secret and how many?
You'll be crashing their funerals and telling stories for free.
I will. I'll do that for free.
Well, I get on Andrew Gold's podcast there. I had to laugh because you were talking about how you always get your comeuppance and
revenge.
And it was some bullies beat you up when you were a kid, and then it was like 20 years later you knocked on the guy's house and punched him in the face.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Everyone that ever hurt me. Yeah.
And
I've done the rounds on. Look, I'll be very honest with you. 7 days ago, I repaid my last debt that I know of, and I got in touch with this kid. Or I thought he was a kid. He's in his 20s, And I said to him, "Are you the son of so and so?" And he goes, "Yeah, I am." "Did you know him?" I said, "Yeah, I knew your dad quite well." And he goes, "Wow." He said, "Can you tell me about him?" And I said, "Oh, where is he? I've been trying to look for him." And he says, "Oh, he died 9 years ago of brain cancer." And I went, "Oh, mate, you're not going to like this, but I stole $5,000 off your dad when I was a kid." And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "I stole $5,000 off him as a kid." And I said, I need to give that $5,000 back to him, and you're his son." And he goes, yeah, I got to know him. And I said to him, "Look, can you please give me a bank account that I can put the money into?" So he gave his mum's account, and I put the money into the account. And that was the last thing I had to do as far as giving back and repaying. But prior to that, there was a guy that he actually beat me up on the way to school. And he used to get his joys out of doing that. And as he became a teenager, he became pretty synonymous with being a bully and a prick and everything else. And it was, I think I was 30. And I knocked on his door, and I said, "Scotty." And he goes, yeah, "do I know you? You look familiar." I went, whack. I said, now we're going to talk. I said, "I was that kid that used to ride past your house all the time. You'd run out and beat me up for going to school. You remember?" "Oh, no, I don't remember. It wasn't me. It was my neighbour." I said, "It wasn't your fucking neighbour. It was you." So then he sat and he cried, and he said he was sorry, and he was a religious person. He didn't mean to do that, and his childhood wasn't good either. And I said to him, "You know what?" I said, "I get it, but I had to do what I have to do because that's just me, and I that's how I'm getting my comeuppance." So I don't call it revenge. I just call it karma, because I'm karma.
You're repenting.
Yeah, every Sunday. And then repeating.
You're repeating your abusers. Tell me a bit about your dad. This sounds interesting.
My old man was he was a gangster in Australia. He wasn't a nice bloke. He came over from Ireland with his family. He came over when he was 17 or something from Ireland. Moved to Melbourne, Broadmeadows. Met my mum. She was English. The Irish and the English hated each other then. They hated each other now. They got together. The families didn't like each other. He fell into boxing. He was very good at boxing. He fought some of the hardest people in Australia boxing, and he did very well for himself. But then he fell into the bad side, and I don't mean drugs, drink, or anything like that. It was all about money for him. It was about standover man and collecting money. So he used to, just go and bash people for money, and then it got. He worked in a place down in Sydney we had a place called King's Cross, which was notorious for, gangsters and all that. My old man used to look after some of the most prominent people, nightclub owners. And one of the nightclub owners who owned the Pink Pussycat and another club, off the top of my head, I can't remember the name, but Frank Sinatra used to come over to Australia, and he was a good friend of this guy who owned the club, and my old man used to travel with them, make sure they're okay, and he took out some really bad people, but he was no saint. He was a terrible man himself. He did some bad shit. So in and out of jail his whole life as well. So, but notorious as.
So was he in your life very much then as a kid?
No, look, he left when I was about 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
I do believe, though, he came into my life now and then. Like he would have just, he would. I do know that he came to a soccer game once and watched me. He stood at a school gate once and saw me. Things like that. It was never like. I don't think he wanted to come back into my life after what he'd been through and what he'd been doing. I think there was a lot of people after him as well. And you see these shows like Underbelly and shows about the criminal world and the gangsters and that. And my old man was in the background doing all the stuff that these people were taking credit for,
right. Yeah.
And if there was anybody that people say to me, oh, your old man, he was nicknamed the Irishman. He was Irish and he was nicknamed the Irishman. So if there was any problems, you got the Irishman. And he'd deal with it. Now, people used to say the Cray brothers in England, were notorious, and they'd say your old man was the Cray brothers put together. He was that bad, And I go, I'm probably glad I didn't really get to know him, And a lot of people are happy he's dead, and I guess, well, if it's that bad, he had his chance, his time, and it's gone.
So you don't think your life would have been better with your dad in it? It would have been just as shitty, probably.
No, I'd probably become the other side. Instead of what I became, and how I used everything to better myself, I'd probably use it against everybody. I'd probably be dead.
Right. So you talked about your grandpa, and you lived with your grandpa, was it? Like you and your mom and your grandpa and your grandma and...
Yeah, we didn't have a choice back then in the 70s, early 80s. I mean, we all lived together in the one house. There was no food, no money. We rented. I counted. I think I've lived in 37 houses in 5 or 6 years when I was a kid. We just kept getting kicked out of houses because we couldn't pay the rent. And there was 8 of us living in the house. There was aunties, uncles, grandparents, the old girl, and it was horrific. It's terrible.
Was there other kids around your age living with you?
I had a brother and 2 sisters.
Were they abused as well?
No. I found out later on in life that I was the one that he liked the most, and I was elected to go to him by my mum. She'd make sure that I was the only one to be abused. She tried to apologise once, saying, look, I knew you were being abused. I had nowhere to live. I had no money. What else was I to do? What the fuck do you mean? What else were you to do? I was your child.
What? So she was calling you a liar and saying,
exactly,
say this shit, and then she's basically pimping you out to her dad so that she had a place to stay.
You got it. Yeah.
Fucking.
And then my auntie came forward telling me the same story. She knew, and she said, "Oh, I was abused by him as well." And I'd say, "Well, if you were abused by him, why did you leave your own children with him to babysit? And she'd go, oh, I forgot. No, it was just sometimes your nana was always with him. No, she fucking wasn't. Because I started to remember things and recall that my auntie and her dad, which is my mum's dad, they used to get on and he used to babysit the kids, and I'd be horrified for my cousins.
Mm-hmm.
But they were all girls. My grandfather liked to abuse boys, not girls.
God,
damn. So yeah, it's a fucked up bringing, mate. I tell you, my dreams would haunt your nightmares. Seriously.
Oh my God, I can only imagine. And then,
but I'm still here.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you're open and vulnerable about your story, which is fucking amazing. I mean, other people would just take that to the grave, or they would spiral down. You've spiraled up.
Yeah, that was a problem for the school. When I was going through the legals with the school, they said, and the church, they said, you know what, you're too successful to be compensated. I'm like, what?
Fuck.
And they said, well, it hasn't affected you. Well, it fucking did for the first 30 years, pal.
Yeah.
Okay, just because I'm successful now doesn't mean anything. I went through all that shit. I went to jail. I lived on the streets. I lost a family. I lost religion. I lost all that because of you fucks. And now you're saying because I'm too successful, I shouldn't be compensated? Fuck your compensation. Give me an open apology. Let me know that you did what you did and you're sorry for it. And, let's move on. No. An apology is worth more than money. So, yeah, that's the way it is.
Fuck. Do you mind telling the story about your grandpa when you're out fishing?
Oh, that was shocking. Yeah. My grandfather took me fishing. It was a really hot day, and he had a half cabin boat and a fiberglass, and we'd go fishing, and he'd tell me to strip off. He'd be naked as well. We'd be driving this boat, and I was quite young. And we'd go fishing, and I never knew how to fish. He taught me how to fish, or pretended to teach me how to fish, and I actually caught a fish, and I brought it up on the boat, and put it in a bucket, and I really felt for this fish because it was so hot, and the fish was in the sun, and I tried to move it in the shade, and grandfather dragged it back into the sun, and I could see the fish floating upside down, and then trying to get back upright, and it was fighting for its life, and I was emotional about it. And my grandfather was trying to molest me at the same time, and I'd cry or I'd wet myself. And my grandfather hated it when I urinated, so I learned to urinate. I'd hold it until a certain time, and when I urinated, he hated that. So I knew I wasn't going to be abused if I urinated, and it was something I did. And he actually grabbed the fish and held it in front of me and stuck a knife in it and said, "This is what will happen to you if you ever tell anybody what I've done to you." And he slit the fish down, pulled its guts out, and basically threw the fish. And I was traumatized by that. And then he and I was crying and blubbering, and I was upset. And he said, "Go up the bow of the boat and sit down." And I went up the bow of the boat, and you couldn't sit down. The fiberglass was nearly melting. It was that hot. And he said, "Sit down." And I'd put my hands down and sit on my hands, and he'd go, "Get your hands up in the air and hold them up in the air and sit down." And I did, and my bum got stuck to the bloody fiberglass. Fuck. And the blistering and bleeding, and it was horrific. And he took me home, and I went for a shower, and I was blistering and blood and that, and I tried to tell Mum, and he'd say, "Oh, what an idiot he was going out the front of the boat and sitting on that stupid boy," And Mum would go, "Oh, you're an idiot," and slap me behind the head and get in the shower and clean yourself off. And I couldn't even wear underwear or pants because all the scabs used to stick to me. And and that tormented me so bad that to this day I can't fish. Not that I don't eat fish or any animal. I just can't fish. I can't kill an animal. I just can't do it. I know they get killed every day and everything, and I eat them, but I just can't do it myself personally. And I like to look at people who are out fishing and having a great time, and I know my grandkids would like to. I even tried to take my kids once, and I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. I said, "Let's go skiing instead." "Oh, yeah, let's go skiing."
Jesus Christ.
So I just can't fish.
God, I'm so sorry, man. That's fucking horrible.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's horrific. I mean, it's a memory and these are memories that stay with you for life. Yeah, you try to get rid of them or move them on, and you think you have, because I got to say, from when my wife and we had a first child at 18, and so from 18 to say 30 or whatever, 35, you're always looking after your family, so you don't think of yourself, and you don't really look at your own personal health or your mental health. And it wasn't until we became empty nesters, and I was sitting opposite my wife at a dinner table, and I'm going, so now what? And she goes, I don't know. I said, so you're Lara and I'm Bill. And she goes, yeah. I said, so we're no longer mum and dad? Like, because that's what we called each other for years. Hey, mum, what are you doing today? Oh, nothing, Dad. What are you up to? And that was our thing. And now it's like, well, who are you? I don't know. Who are you? What do you want to do? I don't know. I'm thinking, and my wife would say, I'm thinking of going back into horse riding. What I did as a child, I'd like to try that again and do that. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do some stuff. I don't know. And then it hit me. All these emotions of my childhood just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I fell into a heap. And I went, oh, my God, fuck.
I guess I'll heal. That's what I'll do. Yeah.
I thought I had healed, but
right.
I wasn't even close.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close. So it all hit me in one hit, and it became my wife said to me, you might want to go get help. And I said, I haven't had help in 30 years, 35 years. I said, and the last person I went to help for abused me. Fuck them. I'll help myself.
So you've never had professional?
That's what I've done.
You haven't gone to a counselor or a therapist or a doctor or nothing?
Only forced. I had to go to two therapists, one on my side for the lawyers and one on their side for the lawyers. And both therapists have said that I'm, you got the usual PTSD and all the bullshit. I mean, there's so many alphabets after my name through the psychiatrists. They just said, fuck, mate. The psychiatrist on the school side, he said he'd never interviewed a more scary person that wasn't and didn't possess empathy or sympathy in his life, which I possess both. He said, I've interviewed people that are in jail for life, never to be released. And what you possess is 10 times worse than what they possess, yet you can manage it. And I do manage it. I do, because, like I say to people, I met my wife when I was 15. And I love her to death. And if I'm prepared to die for her, aren't I prepared to live for her? So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Like that you've all this turmoil through your life, but yet that's your one consistent, your one solid rock is your wife and kids.
Yeah.
And they're through it all.
Yeah. I mean, she was there. Yeah. I met her when she was 15, and we've been together since the day we met. And the very day we met, she told her best friend she was going to marry me. I laughed. And the laugh's on me. 38 years later, I'm still with her, and we're still happily married, and we go about our lives. And she's got her horses now. She does all that. I got my cars and my bike, and I've also got the horses for therapy. But I've got something more now. I've got me. I found myself, and that was a real opener for me to find out who I really was and what I wanted to do and be. And yeah.
Was writing your book therapeutic in a way?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was great. It was not only therapeutic, but I have a backstory where I didn't want anybody, and I mean anybody, because my whole family's dead to me on the other side. I don't want to know them, don't want to talk to them, want nothing to do with them. But I didn't want any of those scumbag dogs coming back and telling stories about my life. I wanted to tell it. So I put everything in the book. And I made sure I put everything in the book for that reason, that they can't come back and say, oh, you know what, he was abused here and did this and this has happened to him. Well, fuck you. I'll put that out there. So there's no secrets.
So you wrote the book for revenge. Beat him to the punch.
Half of it. Yeah. I beat him to the punch. That's damn right I did. Yeah. But it was good for my mental health for sure.
Yeah. Putting
pen to paper anytime is great for anybody's mental health.
It is.
I suggest everyone do it. And then if you don't want it seen or anything, burn it. Doesn't matter. Just do it. It's therapy. It's great.
Yeah, that's what we did I was in an addiction treatment center, and that was one of our exercises, was writing down all our was it our guilts and our resentments, and then burn it and say,
That's right.
fuck it, it's gone now. It's out of you. Move on. Fuck it.
That's it. That's right.
Yeah.
I know. And that's another thing. People say, oh, you forgive and forget and all that. I don't forgive. I don't forget. I will never do either. All right? Fuck them. All right? Fuck them. What I do is I forgive myself. That's the one thing I will do. It wasn't my fault. I did nothing except be in the wrong place, wrong time, and I was a child, for fuck's sake. Okay? Anything after that, yes, I did. You know, breaking into homes and stealing and crime and going to jail. They were on me. Okay, that was my fault. But I was forced into that predicament and forced to that position. It wasn't like I wanted to go. No one fucking wants to go to jail. Mm-hmm. Jesus.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's funny because like in AA and other things, they talk about forgiveness and moving past this stuff. And I mean, it's weird. It's like sometimes I forgive people, and other times it's like, why should I? Why the fuck should I?
Exactly.
Why is that healthy? Why is forgiving healthy? Right. And I get it. It's like, I think it's, if you learn to forgive, then you learn to be forgiven, I think, or something. I don't fucking know. I don't know.
Yeah, look, I don't get into it. I just don't forgive. I don't forget, and I'm calmer, and I'm coming after you. If you fuck with me or my children, or my children's children, I'm coming after you. Don't care who you are, what you do, but don't. I just don't forgive and forget. I can't. I'll never forget because I'm scarred with it.
Yeah.
And to forgive them, no. I'll forgive myself. I won't forgive them though. No fucking way.
Fuck. The more kids your kids have, it's the more people you have to protect, and the more people you have to. You're gonna be beating up half.
You know.
You're gonna be 80 years old, beating up half of Australia.
Hopefully half of Australia don't think that way, but you know what? We all try to protect our own, don't we? Yeah. You know, as much as we can.
I used to fantasize about it. Is that weird? It's like, I'd be like,
nah, not really.
Sitting there, be like, oh, I'd love to see someone try to kidnap my kid. I'd then like fantasize kicking the shit out of someone. I was like, why am I doing that?
Well, I tell you what, after the people I met in jail that actually did kidnap and torture and kill people,
Jesus.
I'd be horrified to see these people and think that they'd be in the vicinity of your children, you know, and some of them are fucking so normal and so nice, you'd think, what the fuck did you do? Oh, I just butchered a couple of kids, and you know, what the fuck? Like, you're just such a decent person. You sound so decent, but you never know. See, you never know. That's why I don't carry people's baggage. Fuck them.
Yeah, that's right. So your book, well, not your book, but actually the job you do, the Coffin Confessing, that's actually turning into a movie or a TV show?
Yeah, both.
Both. Oh, okay.
Reality show, movie, and a documentary, and a drama series. Yeah, all different players coming forward, and yeah, it's a good ride at the moment. I've just been told that Marlon Wayans wants to play the Coffin Confessor. You know, look, I'm looking forward to whoever does what. You know, it's a ride. I'm enjoying it. My wife and I came from nothing. We lived in a tent with kids. We had nothing. What we have today is everything that we made ourselves, which is properties, cars, horses, houses, whatever we got, we made it ourselves. So whatever comes now is just a bonus, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it. You know, Marlon is an exciting character to talk with. He's very funny. He was in White Chicks with his brother. He's just a funny man. I think he'll make it a really funny project.
I've been watching him since I was a kid on In Living Color, his sketch comedy and stuff. Yeah, shit. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, he's cool. And so there's a drama series as well, which they're talking about, and documentary and the book. It's a wild ride. I'm looking forward to seeing where it all goes.
Well,
I'm enjoying it.
It's incredible. Like I said, your story's just fucking fascinating.
When I first walked into prison, right, I was just turned 17 years of age, right? And I was put in prison because I had nowhere to live, no food, no house, no clothing, right? I did commit a crime, demanding property with menace, but it wasn't a convictable crime, but I ended up going to jail as a kid. When I walked into jail, there was a sign on this yard, and it said, ode to a white man. And because there was a lot of Aboriginals in this jail, and it said, ode to a white man. It said, and this is what it said. It said, white man, when you cold, you blue. When you hot, you red. When you scared, you yellow. Me, white man. When I hot, I black. When I cold, I black. When I scared, I still black. And you have the nerve to call me colored.
That's good.
And that hit me big time. That was the biggest sign in my face that we're the most racist fuckers around. We really are.
Oh, I know.
That really hit me.
Oh, man.
And it hit me in a way that I thought, never in my life will I ever do that and be like that. You know, I never was, but it was just something that stuck with me. And it's funny what sticks with you through life. Everybody's out. You know what? People would rather see you fail than succeed. That's what they do. That's why I just succeed in my own little world.
Right, right. Well, you know, since I got sober too, my bubble shrunk. It's like I don't give a fuck about anyone else either. Like, just
good on you.
I got my kids. This is, I think, the fourth time I've said this in a podcast episode in a row. But once I got sober, it was like my friends and my family went from quantity to quality. And it's just, it shrunk down.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, good on you.
Yeah, well, thanks.
And that's how it should be for you, you know, because, and I know this for a fact, life is too short, right? We can buy a clock, we can buy a watch, we can buy a fucking time on our fucking phone. But the one thing we can't buy is time. We can't buy time. Mm-hmm. No matter how rich you are, how powerful you are, you can't buy it. And some of the richest men have tried to buy it. And they can't. They still die. We're all going to die. Enjoy your life, live it, and fucking do what you want to do. Not what anybody else wants you to do. Do what you want to do.
Amen.
You know, it's easier said than done, but you got to do it.
Why is that? Why is it so hard?
Because we always put roadblocks in our way. We say, oh, we can't do that. We got the kids, or we can't do this because, you know, we could die. Oh, we can't do this. It's scary. Or you know what's on the other side of fear? Fucking fun. Go and do it. Give it a go. Stop worrying about what may happen, you know. Yeah. Huh. Just do it. Just give it a go.
Well, the one thing I'm scared of, and I was already scared, but you made me more scared of it, is becoming an empty nester. My oldest son just graduated high school, and in 2 years, my other kid is graduating. It's like, well, you know, I've been to treatment, so I've already kind of healed. I'm healing.
Yeah, you sort of healed, yeah. But what you got to do, and this is something I say to people, is you got to prepare for the empty nesting. Don't let it just hit you like it did me. You got to prepare. And people are like, what do you mean? Well, prepare. Have you got a hobby? Get a fucking hobby a year out before you become an empty nester. And if you don't like that hobby, get another one. Do something. You need something to keep you going, active, whether it's walking, hiking, riding, fucking mountain bike climbing, skydiving, whatever the fuck it is, get a hobby because you'll need that hobby, right? And it's not for you, for your wife or your family. It's for you only. And you need that hobby. And whether it's talking to other people or helping people, whatever it is, you need to do it because it's all about you.
I like talking to weird Aussies. That's my hobby.
Well, I don't know any, but there's some, I guess there's some down here somewhere. I can look some up for you.
I spoke to two in the last few weeks here between you and, hey, cunts. Night, cunts.
Yeah, well, he's a weird Aussie, but I mean, look, you know, like I say, each to their own.
Absolutely. He's living his best life, and I can't be more proud of him.
Hey, that's it. That's what you got to do. You know, just live your best life. And what a privilege for us to be able to tell our stories. How cool is that? People like you come along and go, I want to hear your story. You sure? It's only a story. And they're like, fucking oath. They want to tell people, okay, cool. I'm wrapped.
Well, I've told my story quite a bit. I've been on other people's podcasts and stuff, and I'm a mental health advocate. And like, I could talk for an hour about my own shit, but I got tired of it. I was like, fuck, I want to hear other people's stories. I'm tired of telling my own. So maybe you'll get your own podcast eventually. You'll be like, fuck, I'm tired of telling my story. I want to hear others.
No, you know, I think what I'll do is I'll just let myself tell the story without telling it, if you know what I mean. I'll let other people tell it for it.
Right. So I like that. What's the name of your book? And where can people find it?
The Coffin Confessor.
And it's just everywhere?
It's everywhere. Yeah, you can buy it anywhere. Yeah.
How long ago?
The Coffin Confessor by Bill Edgar.
How long ago did you write that? Is there two different covers?
Yeah, it's two different covers.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's getting second release tomorrow, the 16th here in Australia. And the reason being is when a book comes out in Australia, it comes out in a quite a large format called a Format A. And if it does well, it goes to paperback, which means it goes global. And mine did well, so it went to paperback. But what they decided is, let's change the cover so that way we illustrate more about the backstory and where you came from, Bill, and not just the Coffin Confessor. So, because the book interweaves between my life growing up and the Coffin Confessor. So they're now emphasizing more on the backstory, which is really cool. So I get 2 bites of the cherry. How cool is that?
Thank you so much, Bill. I very, very much appreciate talking to you and you speaking with me. And I appreciate you listening to Bill speaking to me and me speaking to Bill. Anyway, yes, so that was that episode. And I really liked it. Now, don't forget, next week, I'm speaking with Tessa, and she is diagnosed with narcissism. So we're going to hear all about that. Don't forget to rate and review and follow me on social media. And also don't forget to make your beds and take your meds. Bye.